All right, guys, what's going on? It's Jim, the Nomadic Meta Hunter on YouTube, and I'm back with my co-host Camden and Fatine from Permacultura. And today we're here with the special guest director of the March Against Monsanto, Nick Bernado. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How about you guys?
We're good. How you doing?
Doing awesome, loving life.
Great.
Can't complain. So we'll kind of get into whatever you want to talk about. What do you think would be a good first question for the director of March Against Monsanto, Camden?
I would love Nick to introduce himself. Nick, maybe just tell us in a couple of words who you are, what you do, and yeah, just introduce yourself.
Okay. Yeah, my name's Nick Bernado. I came on as a social media director of the March Against Monsanto. What I've been doing other than that, I run a website called the Anti-Media.org. Basically, it's a news aggregator for alternative journalists and independent journalists and alternative media and things like that. I also run a pretty big Facebook network, social media network of like alternative pages, alternative subjects, alternative news, alternative medicine and things like that. The way I got into this March Against Monsanto is what happened is my page maybe like 8 months ago I was being like overwhelmed on my Facebook page because it was just growing like really fast and all these big news stories. Every time there was a big news story, the page would grow really fast, and I lost track of all the interaction on the page because I started getting into more of doing my website and promoting journalists and things like that. So what happened was, after a while, I kind of didn't have enough time to do all the dirty work on my page, and I brought in a girl named Tammy to help me manage my messages and my posts by fans and things like that. After a while, and she was also posting content as well. So after a while, I noticed that she was always promoting events and activism and things like that. So, well, what I did was I was like, I realized that she had a knack for promoting these kind of events and doing these type of organizing and stuff like that. Now, my page was my network. We do a lot of internet activism and promoting people to email their congressman, their senator, and spreading new ideas. Basically what we do is like a combination of activism and journalism.
Cool.
But I told her, hey, I want to turn my page from just being an internet activism page to doing more real life activism and getting people out on the streets. And a few months later, it seems like my instincts were right because she's the one that came up with the idea to do the March Against Monsanto.
Yeah, that's great.
And
Did you
and
think it was ever
so
going to be this big?
No, see, that's the thing is she asked me if I was probably the first person she asked about it. She asked me if it was a good idea, and I said, yeah, it's a great idea because at the time, this was probably back in, let's see, this might have been back in February or so, and what was going on is that the Monsanto Protection Act was getting ready to hit Congress. We found it back in December, but by March, it was getting ready to, or by February, it was getting ready to go to the Congress. So we kind of making this whole movement was kind of in a sort of an answer to the Monsanto Protection Act. But we tried to put together activism campaigns to stop the Monsanto Protection Act in Congress, and we had a ton of people calling all their congressmen and all their senators, but unfortunately they still passed it through the Congress. And then we did the same. We repeated the same thing, but once it passed through Congress, our side started building up a little more momentum, and then we really put together a really strong opposition to it when it got to the presidential level, and we had 250,000 signatures on a petition asking Obama to veto the Monsanto Protection Act, or at least to remove the language from the bill, because it's part of a bigger farm subsidy bill and the farming bill. and they pass it every year. But see, this year Monsanto was able to sneak in their little protection act that they hand wrote, and then they just had their cronies in Congress, put it through for them. And almost everyone in Congress didn't even know that it was in there. At least that's what they claim, because almost everyone in Congress can admit that it was a big mistake passing that kind of legislation. Anyway, Obama signed it into law, obviously, and at that point, within one day, our event had been gaining a little bit of steam. But between that night that it passed and the next morning, when we found out that Obama signed it, because there was such an outcry for Obama to stop it, people and activists everywhere just got really, really angry, and we were able to capture that momentum, capture that anger, and we turned it into energy for this event. And the way we did it actually partially was through memes, making actually the meme that I made for the Monsanto Protection Act for the morning that we found out that it passed. It's actually the most viral meme I've ever made. And that what I did was we posted it from three different pretty big pages, and we also posted it from the March Against Monsanto page. And we had the link. We attached the link into the description of the image for the event. And that meme was seen by, let's see, it had over 30,000 shares. And
Wow.
Judging by the amount of shares, it probably reached about 5 million people. So
Isn't that crazy though?
That's amazing.
yeah,
It's
it's
just like,
pretty
oh yeah, I
amazing.
just made a picture, and then all of a sudden 5 million people get to see it.
Yeah, and I just used was Microsoft Paint, and then I used one of those online meme creator websites, and then I just made it on there, and then copied it down, added our logo, and then posted it. But so that really jump-started this whole thing, and we went from 200 RSVP the night before the Monsanto Protection Act passed to about 5,000 RSVP by the next afternoon. And then from there, the momentum never stopped. And then from there, as it started getting big, we were able to attract some good talent to help us organize and make content. And the cool thing is that since I already had this network in place, and between all the pages that I admin on Facebook, we have 1.3 million subscribers at my last count. So all of my pages are all about alternative medicine, alternative media, alternative cures, and things like that. So this event plugged right into my network perfectly. From there, it was just a matter of making really good content that was going to go viral and attaching all the event information to each one of those memes. And that's really how it got started. And then as soon as the event started getting big, then we started setting up events for all the local cities. And we were finding local organizers for each event. And so the point where it started spreading from the internet onto the streets is when all the local organizers started making flyers and things like that, and getting out onto the streets, into the farmers markets, passing out flyers.
I went everywhere. I was like, hey guys, do you know about this?
Yeah, exactly.
I also went up to some stores like Whole Foods and stuff, handing out.
Yeah,
I
that's
knew
a
they
really
weren't
good
going to
idea.
take it. I knew they weren't going to take it. But I went up there and I was like, hey, you guys mind if I just hang up a flyer? They're like, oh, what is it? And I showed them, and I'm like, oh, yeah. They looked at it like, oh, really? You want
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. They're like, well, we can't put it on the window, but we'll put it in the back room for everybody. And that's pretty cool.
Well, that's cool. At least they let you leave one.
Yeah,
So
hopefully
then,
they took it. We'll see. I mean, I don't know if they should or not.
so I guess for the whole promoting side of it, there was really three, as far as coming from where my standpoint. There's a whole nother side of it, which is the local organizing, and I didn't have as much of a hand in that, but I did I helped organize San Diego as well. But from the third key thing for what helped us jumpstart from the central campaign was basically, once we got the internet content going viral, then we had the local organizers hitting the streets with their flyers and things like that. The third thing that really helped was the media. The alternative media is what played the biggest part in pushing this event into the mainstream. So since I have a network of alternative journalists that I already work with and that I promote, that's like the main thing I do. All I had to do was put a call out into some of my groups of all these journalists, and I had just asked them, hey, can you guys write some articles? Can you guys make some videos about the March Against Monsanto and let people know what we're trying to do? And sure enough, within a couple days, we already had articles coming in, and they were also coming in from people that we didn't even know. Once the buzz started growing, so we started getting a lot of media, and it was all alternative media and independent, citizen journalists and things like that. And they started making a bunch of articles. And then I was in some admin groups on Facebook. So since I admin on a bunch of pages, I also know a bunch of other people that admin on a bunch of other pages, and we have groups. We have Facebook groups set up so that what I did was I put out a call once the event started catching some traction. I put a call out into our admin groups, and I told them that we would add them onto our sponsors list, and we'd support, we'd promote their websites and their pages and things like that. So once we started getting all these other pages on board, it just started turning into like a cascade of support, and then it just never stopped. It just kept growing and growing and growing up until, the very last day. I mean, on our website, the traffic was still peaking, like up to the very last day. On Saturday, we had almost 100,000 hits on the website just on Saturday alone. And we've only had the website up for about 2 months now, and we've already got over 1 million hits on it. So it's just one of those things that there was enough people, and it was an issue that you couldn't really divide it by an ideological stand. So it wasn't like there was just a bunch of conservatives and then there were no liberals, or it wasn't like there was a bunch of liberals and no conservatives, or a bunch of libertarians and no anarchists. It was a big tent issue, so a lot of different people could get behind it. I even had we even had religious people contacting us in San Diego because their church wanted to get involved, and because they're against genetically modifying and things like that as well. So it was a big tent issue. We had atheists, religious people, all spectrums of the political spectrum. It was awesome. It was just a bunch of people that put aside their differences, and they agreed on this one thing, and they worked together, and the vibe was just, I think, at least in San Diego, the vibe was just awesome.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. And around us, like we literally, it wasn't a left or a right type of deal. It was just, it's your food, it's our children, it's the future. Like literally, if we don't do something and stand up for it, we're all going to be not here, and it's going to be a waste of time. So now I figured, we can actually do this together. And I don't know, I was so proud about mine that showed up, people there, and Orlando. I was hearing some great things too, and I don't know. Camden, can you hear us now?
The vibe was pretty good in Orlando too. The problem was though that the speakers, which was funny, some of the speakers were using or abusing this whole march or the whole event for their own purposes. There were
Hmm.
like organic food stores that don't sell just organic food, and you don't even know if the food they're selling is organic, and they were promoting their store instead of talking about the movement and talking why we should avoid Monsanto and GMO crops. But Nick, I got a question. Um, what did the religious group though say? Why are they joining? What's their interest?
Well, he didn't say exactly, but I believe it's kind of the same reason why they oppose cloning of humans. They oppose the human cloning and things.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of, they come from the issue. I mean, the side of it where they don't want people messing with, God's creation. Where it's like that
Okay.
same saying where you don't mess with nature. It's kind of like that same thing where they don't, according to their beliefs, God makes this earth, and it's pretty much perfect. So why is there some companies out there trying to go through and redesign what nature or what God has done for people? So I think that may be the issue why the religious people were getting involved. But I didn't really get to go into that much detail with them because we were both in a little bit of a rush when I spoke to him on the phone. But I did see him at the event. He did come, so I did see him there.
That's interesting because we met some Arabic people on the march, and women who were wearing the veil and stuff. And it's interesting because they're marching as well because they believe that if you change food or if you change nature, you kind of that's a slap into God's face. That was their explanation. And we listened to an interview yesterday with an American soldier who converted to Islam, which was interesting too. And he said the same thing, that the moment you change God's creation, you destroy everything and you make yourself something superior, like a godlike figure. And that was pretty
Yeah,
interesting to
yeah, I
see
can
the
definitely see
diversity.
how the religious side of it can come into play. And I was actually talking about it like literally the day before that guy called me because he called me on Friday night, the night before the march, and Thursday I was talking about that with one of my organizers, and I was like, well, I'm kind of surprised that the Christian community hasn't got more involved in this because I know a lot of them would should, according to what I know, they probably would oppose this stuff too. And sure enough, the next day, the pastor called me, so it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, Nick, what could you say to everyone out there who is just getting into this? They just learned about Monsanto. They maybe just heard about organic food, heard about a garden. What's like the first step that somebody can take to trying to um, get this message out on social media? What's the first couple steps somebody could take?
On social media,
Yeah.
well, let me see. Well, the easiest thing you can do is just follow some cool pages. I mean, there's a bunch of cool pages out there on Facebook, and then you could find them on Twitter, usually from Facebook too. But you could follow the March Against Monsanto page. We post a lot of really cool info. We talk about alternative growing techniques. There's a really good one of my favorite ones is called Grow Food Not Lawns. He really posts some really good angles on this whole food issue, and it's really he really comes from more of a market perspective. So it's what can you do in your life right now or today or tomorrow to really change it, and that's really in my opinion, that's the most effective way that we're going to be able to combat these guys, because once they start realizing that more and more people are checking out of the commercial food industry and their profits start dipping and going down, they're going to be forced to start to evolve. And they're going to, if they come to realize, okay, well, it's because of the GMOs, okay, they're going to drop the GMOs. And then if they start to realize, okay, well, people still aren't buying our stuff because they don't like all the pesticides we're making, so then they're going to probably have to change and start making more green pesticides. I mean, I'm all for having them completely disappear, but even if we force them to evolve, that's still a victory.
Yeah, absolutely. And what kind of people inspire you and motivate you to get into this? And what kind of friends do you have that you surround yourself with? How important is the environment that you're working with and the people that you're working with? How important and vital is the environment to you?
Well, you can always build your own environment. I remember, well, I still have the same friends I've been hanging out with since I was in like seventh grade, and then I have five brothers, and
Wow.
I was the first one out of the group to, well, we've always been kind of anti-establishment. One of the things is that we were all skateboarders, and when you're a skateboarder, you have no choice but to be anti-establishment because the cops kick you out of every single place you go. So then a lot of skateboarders are anarchists, and then you start to question things. And I used to do a lot of research on odd topics and things like that, but I think I'm the first of my friends that really started feeling pretty strongly about a lot of this alternative ideas to government and to food and to media and things like that. So, but now all of my brothers and the majority of my friends are kind of in agreement with me because after me talking about it long enough, and the thing is that you're gonna have to have you're gonna have to win some arguments. That's the thing. So you're gonna have friends that are gonna say, nah, dude, nah, bro, like you're tripping. But after a while, if you could win your argument, you could back it up with fact, and maybe you're at a buddy's house hanging out drinking a beer. The next day you could talk to him about something that night. The next day you could send him a link and say, look, this is what I was talking about. This is what I meant, or whatever.
Yeah.
And slowly but surely you can get everyone around you to start changing their mind and rethinking about what they think they know. And I think that's one of the huge keys is that we need, if we can get one person in each family or one person in each group of friends that can start thinking differently, and they could persuade their friends to think differently, that's how we start changing, and that's how we really start revolutionizing the way that we live, and the way that
Yeah.
how the system is built.
And it's like that's the way or the path we are following right now, the path to health, right? I mean, coming back to the GMO food versus organic food, what do you think why people should eat organic food and what kind of people? Because basically, if you take a look at the at society, you always see like at Whole Foods or at other organic food stores, and I'm not talking that Whole Foods is an organic food store. We're coming to that later too. But in general, people who buy organic food are mostly people from upper middle class or upper classes. Um, why do you think it's so important to get all the people into that boat?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest problems, and it's really the most horrifying thing of this whole topic is that Monsanto inadvertently or maybe purposely, which yeah, most likely it's purposely, but um, they are a huge beneficiary of the welfare system, and almost all of the food that's subsidized and that you can get on food stamps or on welfare, I would say about 98% of that is going to be GMO, and even the baby formula, which is completely sickening. I think 8 out of 9 of the available of the available baby formula that you can get on food stamps is GMO, and that's a huge problem. And so this problem would get so big if we tried to go about it strictly in a political way, because then you're talking about if we're going to go about fixing the GMO problem politically, then we would also have to go about fixing the welfare problem politically, and that's not really going to happen. So what we have to do is we have to, as communities, as people that care, what we need to do is opt out of what we would normally think we should do, and what we need to do is set up community gardens and get into urban permaculture, urban agriculture, and you could even do it in where I live in Chula Vista. It's just south of San Diego. We're like a border town between San Diego and Tijuana, and it's a pretty rough area where I live, and it's almost, I would say at least half the people here are on some kind of fixed income, maybe welfare or social security or food stamps, or one of those types of things. At least half, probably more actually. But how is it that the question is if these people are on all these welfare and food stamps and things, how are we going to get them non-GMO food? How are we going to get them organic food? And I think what we need to start doing is the people themselves need to step up and start taking more of initiative with the people that are less fortunate, and we can start building community gardens. We could start supporting food co-ops in poor areas. One of the really cool things that I never really thought about before, and it's another one of these coincidences, like when I was talking about the Christian community getting involved with the March Against Monsanto. But we built a garden at my friend's house, and her neighbor right to the back, he has this huge yard that he doesn't use. It's just overgrown in weeds and stuff. And I was like, how cool would it be if we went over to his house and said, hey, we'll cultivate your backyard and we'll give you free food, and then all the extra food we get to take to either sell or give away in order to pay for our labor, and then also to feed the neighborhood, And then the very next day, I was at an organizing meeting for the March Against Monsanto, and one of the people that were at the meeting, she actually has a company, and it's a food co-op. It's a sharecropping food co-op, and that's what they do is they find people with yards that they're not really using. They'll cultivate the land, and then the people get free food, and then all the rest of the food gets given to the community that's right nearby, and they hand deliver just bags of food to people's front doors. And I think that's a huge thing that we can do to help the poor communities and move the food democracy closer to where it's being consumed at. And all it is a matter of getting volunteers, because what you can do as far as funding it is you can get the people that live in the area to join the co-op, or B, you can use like some kind of new crowdsourcing formula where you get people that are a little more well off that are willing to pitch in maybe $5 or $10, and a $5 or $10 from 500 different people goes a pretty far way. And then what you can do is you set up using these new innovative growing techniques like aquaponics. You could do even vertical aquaponics, which I think is probably the most efficient way known right now to grow food. So what you do is you can pack into a little tiny yard, you can pack enough to feed like 5 or 10 families. And then with aquaponics, you're also growing fish at the same time. So you also have the meat and you have the fruits and vegetables. And it's such a low maintenance system, and you barely have to put anything into it. It uses 95% less water, and basically all you have to add into it is the fish food. So these new ideas once you get them made, they start paying for themselves, and then it's not even like this huge thing where you got to keep on donating into it. You can do one crowdsourcing every 3 months, and every 3 months you build a new big community garden with all these cool innovative features, and then that garden starts paying for itself, and it's feeding people at the same time that are less fortunate, you know. So that's one of the things that I've been really trying to get out with this March Against Monsanto. The media, the mainstream media, has been trying to frame it as this thing that all we want is labels, and all of our critics are like, oh no, we don't need labels and this, that, and the other thing. Labeling is just a small part of the food revolution that we're trying to kickstart, and we just need more and more people to get involved. And one of the things I encouraged everybody to do is at their local March Against Monsanto, I told everybody that this is your new network. These are your people that you guys got to work with. Get all their emails, and I encouraged all the organizers to collect a big email list that everyone could, you know, stay connected on, because this is your network. These are the people that care, and these are the people that are out here on the streets. If they're out on the streets protesting, then they're probably down to go out and throw around a garden tool for about an hour. You know, so get these people involved that you met at your March Against Monsanto, your local people, and get them involved with you to help build these gardens and build the garden in your own house. If you could build it bigger than what you need, then, you know, donate the rest that you can to the people around you or whatever. You know, there's just so many ways of doing it, and so many innovative ways of doing urban agriculture, that there's really no reason that we need some company like Monsanto running around saying that they're going to save the world, when in reality half the world is rejecting everything that they're doing. So that like all their claims are just totally unbased and just totally based in this fallacy that they're saving the world, when all they're doing is making a ton of money, and for the most part screwing over all the local farmers that have been doing it for, you know, 50, 100 years.
And poisoning the soil and killing bees and everything, you know, it's all related. That's the whole thing. What I love so much about what you just said is that you don't just create community gardens, you create communities, because once people get active and work together and start to share, this is what actually a nation should be built on. We founded an NGO, or a non-profit organization, and the thing about the NGOs, what I don't like at all, is it means non-governmental organization. But to be honest, we are the government. The people are the government. And the moment we take everything into our hands, the moment we start to share, the moment we start to build together and to grow together, that's the moment when they don't have any power anymore. And this is what I love so much about what you do, because you bring people together. And please let us know, how did you do that with the email list? You said you had like thousands of email lists, and how did you distribute that? How did you share that? Please share with us, how can we organize groups? How can we share information easily? How can we use social media effectively to spread the message?
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's a really great topic. Everything we did with the March Against Monsanto, we did it with 100% free tools that are already available online. We did the whole March Against Monsanto on a budget of $10, and the $10 was just to purchase the domain name marchagainstmonsanto.com, and everything else we did for free. You know, there's a couple websites you could use to build a free website, and having a website is one of the big keys to success for organizing and building up your email list. You could use the ones that we used was blogger.com. It used to be known as Blogspot. You could also use wordpress.com. And what we did, the cool thing about Blogger, and I believe you could use this feature, you could also use it on WordPress. So whichever one you use, you could use the same technique. But what we did is we set up, Google has this feature called FeedBurner, and what FeedBurner is it sends, what you do is you burner to your blog, and it sends out all of your posts that you make through email, and then all it is you get an HTML code that you post into your blog, and then whenever anybody visits your site, they can sign up for your email newsletter list, basically. So what you do is you get the FeedBurner, you build the way I recommend doing it is building two separate blogs, because I don't think you want to get people getting emailed every single day with your posts. So you make two separate blogs. You make one as your regular website, and then the other one all you use it for is for your newsletter. So whenever you make your newsletter, you just make a post, and then through FeedBurner you schedule your post to send out at a certain time. And so that's where you get your email subscribers. You get them sent from your secondary blog, as a newsletter, and then you could have links there to your other blog or to whatever you want to talk about, and you could add that in. The other thing we did in San Diego is we passed around clipboards with, to collect people's emails, and then what you can do is you just the easy way to do it, because in San Diego we must have collected about 1,000 emails, and nobody really wants to enter all those by hand. So what we're gonna do, we haven't done it yet, just because everyone's still kind of resting a little bit, because it was kind of drained us all out. But we're gonna get on it actually probably tomorrow. And what we did was what we're gonna do is we're gonna set up a Google Docs spreadsheet, which you can set up to be open source, where you can have 5 or 10, maybe even 20 different people that are going to have access to it, and it's based online, like in a cloud. And so those 20 people can split up the email sheets, the email list, and each person can only add 50 instead of one person trying to add 1,000. So that's a good way of splitting up the work, and it takes a cooperative effort. But I'm sure whatever group has collected we encourage all the organizers to collect email lists. And then we have an email list of all the organizers as well, so that's how we're going to be communicating and encouraging and sending out ideas and tips. And like what I was just telling you, we're going to be sending that out to all the organizers so that they could build up their email lists and things like that. So the other thing is having a little local website. You set it up for free, and then you could start just collecting as many emails as you can, and you could send out all your links like that. You also want to, from your local event, you guys should set up a page and a group, a Facebook page and a Facebook group, just to kind of keep it in touch, and also so you have multi-layers of contact, so that you're sure that you're going to contact these people one way or another, and that way you don't end up with people that forget about it. They're always going to be reminded about it. So one of the important things is keeping contact with everybody and getting everybody. One thing I encourage, and one thing that one of our main organizers for the national campaign, she was really experienced with local organizing, and one thing that she recommended was that make it a habit to get out maybe once a month, once every couple months, and get out of the house and go meet up with all these people somewhere and have a meetup, have a mixer, have a picnic, or whatever it is that you guys want to do, and so that you could talk about the next steps. But it's important to get everybody out of the house and get them into the habit of going out and doing things, so that it's less of a chore to turn people out when you're having a big event, or when you're having a protest or a sit-in or a march or whatever it is that you're trying to do. If everyone's already used to coming out once a month, it's not as big of a deal to have them come out and do this thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really crazy because here on the East Coast, we're always about 5 to 10 years behind the West Coast, it always seems like. And everyone asks you, like, oh, like last year, everyone thought that I was weird doing what you're doing. And I went on a road trip, I came back, and out of nowhere, I started saying the exact same things when I left. And they're like, oh my God, that's a great idea. We should definitely do that. And, some people, I will bring it up to others, the people that I need to talk to, and say, hey, I want to start a community garden. They like the idea. Now we have to figure out. They're like, well, what's your intentions? If you can just watch almost any documentary that I will list here, and it will show you exactly what I want to do and plan on, for the future of this little area. And they usually like it, and that's the great thing. And to know that you guys are actually pushing forward and getting more is actually kind of like a reinsurance that it's not going to fail anytime soon. So I should keep doing it. And doing what we're doing. By the way, if you haven't noticed, Camden is out, and I think I should send him an invite now. That's why I'm always on the phone. Sorry.
No biggie. Yeah, I think he's having a problem with his internet connection or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, these ideas, and that's why it's still kind of I wouldn't say a small movement, but it's still in the developmental stages, because people are so used to, and not only are they used to it, but let's face it, people are brainwashed slightly by what they see in the media and what they see in the pop culture. So it's hard to break people out of that shell. But a lot of people, once they break out of it, they hit the ground running, and they want to jump into a bunch of different things. And then finally they're going to have open ears for the ideas that we've been talking about for us, it seems like we've been talking about it forever. But for people that are just finally realizing, oh, maybe they're actually onto something, they're like, just totally trying to soak up as much information as they can. So it's always cool to see people that are just waking up to these ideas and get to talk to them and see what they think and what they know and things like that, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened to. I mean, at my march that we were doing, they had. I mean, we were picking people off the streets. Literally, people were like coming up. They were like parking on the side of the road, coming out. They're like, "Oh my God, what's this about?" And we just tell them, and they're like, "Oh, I'm coming with you." And I'm like, "This is awesome." You know, like getting just people that had, you know, maybe didn't see the flyer or didn't hear about it on Facebook. They might not be socially, network active, and they came out. They walked, and they're just like, "Oh my God!" And then they start talking about others that are either interconnected and all. And it doesn't matter if you're a vegan, a vegetarian, or a meat eater. It didn't matter. Like they were all out there, like we were talking about. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, bringing people together is so important. And Nick, before you go, man, we want to thank you for having you on, and it's been an honor and a pleasure. But the main thing I really want to ask you is, after this event had so much momentum and so many solutions came out of this, and so many opportunities came out of this for millions of people around the world, what is going to be the next big event? We're almost halfway through the year. So where are you looking to kind of bring this into the summer? It's going to be a hot summer. So what's next on your list?
Well, so far, and I mean, believe me, I've been inundated with people asking me to help them promote their stuff, and this event was so draining on me. Literally, the last 2 months of my life I've been at this event for like 12 hours a day. I haven't really had a break.
Wow.
And I was supposed to give my website right now, the antimedia.org, is being rebuilt into a social network for journalists because
Wow.
journalism is such a huge part in activism, because the mainstream media, they love to just they love to ignore things, or they're literally purposely not report on them until after the fact when it's already too late. Like with the Monsanto Protection Act, these guys didn't talk about the Monsanto Protection Act. Not even after it was passed through the Congress, it was passed through the president. The first person to report on the Monsanto Protection Act was Jon Stewart from The Daily Show. And there was actually an article out maybe it was like 2 weeks ago on RT, and it was actually talking about how these comedians actually speak more truth than these mainstream media pundits that are supposed to be reporting the news. Anyway, the media is just so important, and that's what really made this event happen, was getting that alternative media and that independent citizen journalist involved in this march, and they started making the buzz happen. Because the thing about people a lot of times is, you could tell somebody something and they'll say they'll listen to you and they'll act like they're actually really paying attention, but they won't actually believe you until they see it on the news.
Yeah.
And so that's the cool thing about having the alternative media, and the fact that it's so decentralized, is that if it starts spreading through the independent media, then you're going to start reaching out to a really diverse crowd of people, and that's going to reach all around the world, just like this event did, because it followed with the event was it was growing as the media was reporting on it in different places,
Exactly.
So you get the Facebook invite from one of your friends, but then you see it on an article you're reading, and then you're more likely to actually get involved and do it, because then you're like, oh, maybe there's going to be more than just like 5 people there, because people don't like to be out there by themselves and waving signs. They like to have a crowd of people there so that they have support, So that's one of the things too, is that we got to get more and more people involved in this stuff, and as they get bigger, it's going to be like a snowball effect. So as they get bigger and bigger, more people are going to be like, oh yeah, they're actually down to go do that kind of thing, because there's more and more people there, and it's more of a thing that's it's more of a popular thing than it is a fringe thing, because a lot of times going out and protesting and stuff, a lot of people think that's like fringe and that it's just a bunch of hippies and things like that. Well, there are fringe people there, and there are hippies there, but we want to. Our event, I can tell you, was really, really broad. There was all types of different people there. In fact, like 20-30% of the people at our march were children that were like below the age of like 14. There was a lot of kids at our march, and that was really encouraging. And I could see these kids growing up to be 10 times the activists that we are right now. And they're going to have so many different tools at their disposal, and the technology that, by the time they're adults, the technology is going to come so far, and And I think that the alternative media is making a lot of headway, and the mainstream media is really taking a nosedive. Every single year over year, I've been following it for about 2.5, 3 years now. Year over year, their numbers are sliding and going down, down. And if you look at there was a poll, I believe it, what was it? Was it Pew Research Center, I believe? Anyway, you can Google it, and you look at a poll of how many people are getting their news from social media and from the internet, and that on the graph, you just see that number skyrocketing, and you see the number of people getting their news from the TV and from the mainstream radio that you hear in your car on the AM, FM. Those numbers are plunging. So there's a lot of things to be optimistic about. And so when I think when these kids that are like 10, 12 years old, when they get to be 18, but I have friends, one of the admins on my page is a 16-year-old kid that makes awesome videos about all kinds of cool subjects. But so we're even seeing kids right now that are becoming journalists that are like
That's
16,
awesome.
17 years old. I have a buddy, he writes for the Libertarian Party of Washington. He's only like 17. And he's like one of their staff writers. So, I mean, we got these kids that are coming up, and they're going to be able to take advantage of this technology even more than what we're able to do. And it's just a matter of the snowball effect. The activists are going to become more in number, and the couch potatoes are going to become less in number. And the amount of people that are getting the spoon-fed media is drastically falling off, and the people that are sourcing out their information online and from diverse sources that aren't. Most of the alternative journalists, most of these guys, I would say at least 70% of them, probably more, because there's a lot of blogs out there. There's probably millions of blogs out there. I would say it must be around 90% of these guys aren't even getting paid. So, they're not out there writing because they have to write to make a paycheck. They're out there writing because they want to make a difference and they want to help people. They're making videos because they want to help the world. They're not doing it just for a paycheck. Because once you start getting to a point where you might have to bend your principles in order to make a paycheck because your sponsor doesn't want you talking about a certain thing. Well, let's say you're sponsored by Roundup, by Monsanto's Roundup, like NPR is. So NPR can't really go and they run Monsanto ads, Roundup ads on their articles all day. So you probably aren't going to see any kind of content coming out of NPR that's going to be critical of the biotech industry or of Monsanto. So the independent journalists, they may have less resources and they don't have the professional cameras or whatever it is that these guys have at these big stations, but what they do have is passion, and they have the ability to research online and things like that, because it's just a common fallacy that the stuff you hear on the internet is false, but the stuff you see on TV is true. But it couldn't be any more the opposite. In fact, the TV shows, the TV news, the mainstream news is legally allowed to lie to people. It was they set the precedent. The lawsuit back in 2003, it actually started off with it was actually related to Monsanto, and they ruled in court that people like Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, and all these different journalism, so-called journalism companies are legally allowed to lie as if it's a person, because they have the freedom of speech. So that back in 2003, the precedent was set. And ever since then, you've been seeing a lot of manipulation in the media. I mean, if you look at what happened before Iraq, that led into the Iraq War, it was a total media manipulation. The other question is...
Even during the Iraq War, the media was lying because they had embedded reporters, journalists that were with the troops, but not showing what the reality was, but they created a reality for the troops and for the audience, and that was crazy enough. This is why it's so important that we have alternative media channels like yours. And please name all your websites, please name all the spaces you use in the internet to spread the word.
Yeah, just tell me, or put it in, if you're, I'm going to speak it now, but also put the link below for everybody.
Yeah, but he can name it now.
Yeah, but it's easier when you click on it when you watch it later.
Okay, cool. I'll name it, and then I'll shoot you guys the links as well. So my main website is the antimedia.org. It's in the middle of a remodel. We're doing something completely new. It's going to be a social network for journalists. So you guys will be able to sign up, and then you could just, whenever you publish content, you could just post your links into my site, and it enters into our algorithm, and it's a community-based ranking system where it's kind of similar to Reddit. but it's strictly for journalists. The other thing I'm doing is I have another page called Alternative Journalism on Facebook, and then join our group. If anybody out there is a journalist, including all of you guys, I want you guys in there and post your videos and your links. It's a Facebook group. It's called facebook.com/groups/alternative journalism, and it's just a group. You just join it, and then I'll approve your request. And then anything you post in there, there's so many admins in that group as well that your stuff will get shared on a bunch of Facebook pages. So it'll get you some traffic, it'll get you some new followers and subscribers and things like that. But it's basically similar to how I'm going to run my website. It's going to be like the backbone of my website. So it's really important that we get as many journalists in there as possible. And the more we get in, the more fans we're going to have. And there's also a dedicated page for that group. So any journalists that join that group that are posting content on a regular basis, they get added into our page as an admin so that they can post their stuff directly, so that they don't have to wait for someone else to share their stuff. But there's all kinds of different pages in there that are sharing content out of that group, and that's about all I do. Also, the March Against Monsanto.com, we're gonna carry the march on. The march is gonna continue. This is just the beginning of what we want to be, the food revolution. And we're going to be posting content, and we're taking a couple days off just because it was so much work to get the march going. But we're going to be posting content. We're going to be supporting other events. Oh, I forgot to answer your question earlier about the other events we're going to do. The events, the next thing on our schedule is on 4th of July. There's an event called Mothers Across America, or Moms Across America, and they're doing a 4th of July anti-GMO protest. We're gonna promote that. We're not going to be really organizing for that, but we're going to be promoting that. So you can catch that on our website, on our page, and we'll send you guys out info. We're going to try to get a lot of people out to that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we'll spread it too.
Awesome. Now the next thing that we've committed to helping organize, we're not sure on the role that we're going to take yet, if we're going to really take a really heavy role or if we're just going to supplement what's existing. But we're going to be promoting and organizing for the World Food Day, but we're going to do it on October 12th, because that's like I believe that October 12th will be a Saturday, and we're going to try to get a good amount of people out marching the streets for World Food Day. It's also, I believe it's National GMO Awareness Month as well for the month of October. That's going to be October 12th. So book your calendars for that, and I think that's about it right now.
Yeah. We want to thank you, and you know what? You were such an inspiration. You inspired Kemnan. Kemnan is doing a lot of research right now. Basically, he's trying to expose those organic growers that sell chemical, food that had been treated with chemicals and pesticides, and he's doing a big research on that right now. And we thank you so much for giving all of us the platform to spread the message and to spread the truth. Thank you.
Cool,
So much.
awesome. And then check my website, the marchagainstmonsanto.com. One of the articles, check the article for everyone listening that wants to get more involved. I wrote an article last week on Wednesday. It's called "How the March Against Monsanto Can and Will Change the World." There's a lot of resources there on how to organize, on a lot of the stuff I talked about tonight, the new techniques, aquaponics, things like that, community gardening, how to do sharecropping, and innovative ideas like that. If people want to read that article, that's a good place to start out. There's a bunch of hyperlinks in there and a bunch of links to information, so that's a really good starting place. So,
Nice.
Yeah, Nick, and I can't wait to get out there in San Diego, and we got to plant some food for us.
Yeah.
awesome,
Yeah.
let's do it.
Plant some food for us and go skate. I'm in.
All right, guys. Well, it was good talking to you, and I hope to talk to you guys soon.
Have a good
Okay,
day,
Nick,
man.
it's been a pleasure, man. Have a great night.
And
All right,
have
see
a
you later.
good show. And Nick, before you leave, please tell our audience that you have your own show.
Oh yeah, I have my own radio show. It's going to be on later tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. It's called the Anti-Media Radio. You can search it on Google. It'll be the first link. Otherwise, you can go on ucy.tv/TAMR. So the initials for the Anti-Media Radio. So it's probably easier just to Google it, but the Anti-Media Radio, you guys should be able to find it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So much.
Have
All
a
right,
good
see you
day.
guys.
Good night.
Awesome, Nick. See ya.
See ya.
All right, that's pretty cool. But like to add to his what he was talking about, most everyone I think that was on Facebook got to use had their own town or something or city that they marched at. What happened in mine, the Food and Water Watch came back and said, hey, we want to continue what we're doing with the March Against Monsanto. Anybody want to meet maybe next Tuesday or something? So I guess a lot of people are going to start showing up, and we're going to try to do more things, trying to connect everyone else and say, hey, I put it out there saying, hey, we need to get more community gardens. I want to see this. I want to, I'll help you if you need help. If not, if I can't do it, I'll find someone local there and we'll connect you guys. If not, let's just keep doing something. Either start with a community garden and go straight to town hall and ask what they're doing, or start talking to your neighbors who wants to do it, like he was talking about before, saying that, my neighbor has a vacant lot pretty much, and he's not doing anything. Let me do something. Give him some food, and then you get the extra and all the other fun stuff. Of course, most of us actually like gardening. Like, I mean, I wish I had more property, to tell you the truth. I mean, I just got a bunch of seeds lately
Yeah.
because for everything. So I'm like, I wish I just had more room. And that's why we're starting up the community garden and all. And we just want to do it. You don't care about the money. And as soon as we start thinking that this is a job, I'll take breaks. People are like, where the heck have you been? And I'm like, as soon as it feels like a job, I don't care. You change the regulations because something tells you. I don't want to do that. I do this because it's a hobby. I like doing it. I enjoy it. Other people like watching it, not a lot, but it still helps. And it could be out there for years. I don't care if it gets 1,000 views for one day or if it gets 10,000 views in 3 years or whatever. As long as somebody watched it and they learn something or it opens their minds and makes them think, hey, we need to go out there and do more. So I was really happy to see a lot of people at my march talking about what do we do next? Like, oh my God, like, hey, do you have any other links? Do you have this?
Yeah.
And
It's
that
pretty
was
amazing.
cool.
There's so much room for improvement, like Nick had mentioned, and of course, Jim, it's been a pleasure. Like you got to organize this, and now we're on board. And but the reason that there's so much room for optimism is because, for example, I've been getting a lot of emails lately on Facebook from people in high school that I haven't even talked to in like over half a decade, and they're little by little they're asking me, hey, could you post something about planting a garden, or do you have any ideas of how I can get a garden? But getting it the whole year, not just in the summer, because I grew up in Virginia, and a lot of people don't live in Florida, Texas, or Southern California, so the perennial food forest really comes down to research and watching videos and learning from a lot of great permaculture teachers like Sepp Holzer, Jeff Lawton, well, Bill Mollison, of course, he founded the whole thing. And what inspired me really was I remember after my accident, and I couldn't walk for 2.5 months, and I started watching videos by Anthony Anderson, actually, from his Minnesota food forest. And that really got me inspired to physically go out, buy some berry bushes, and buy a couple fig trees, and really just plant for the first time. And I think little by little, if we keep sharing pictures and sharing videos and posting stuff and getting kids involved, because when the kids get involved and they start using their iPads and their iPods and stuff like that, taking pictures, taking videos, posting that, editing film, learning how to be investigative journalists, learning how to be filmmakers, learning how to organize social media events like Nick has been talking about. And I really feel that's the most positive way that we can go forward in this movement.
Yeah, when he was talking about all that, I was like, this is amazing. Like, there's hope. Like, if that's what people are doing on the West Coast, like, that young and that involved, just think what's going to happen here, like, when it goes.
What's
So,
that?
guys, Nick still has his audio on.
Okay.
Hold on. I can mute
And
him, actually.
I just wanted to say, sometimes it's even, we don't have to invest so much money to build community gardens or food forests. Basically, we bought trees in the beginning. We don't do that anymore. What we do is we collect the seeds from every fruit, from every vegetable, and from fruits, and of course vegetables don't have seed, but from every from every fruit, and we plant them. And basically we want to do like a short video, 60 seconds, into saving seeds. And what we should promote basically is to save seeds and share seeds. I don't want to buy a corporate seeds anymore. You never know if they're 100% organic. And the next thing is, I don't want to put money into these big corporations. They're somehow all belonging together. And,
Yeah,
this is why we started to collect seeds. I just want to show you something because I love to collect seeds from tomatoes. That's like one of my favorite activities right now. Hold it, Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just planting some seeds today and going around.
He's
I'm
grabbing
literally.
them right now.
All right.
Here we go.
Yeah, and what we basically do is every time I eat a tomato or we eat a tomato, we just collect the seeds. And do you see that? Looks a bit funny. Looks a bit funny though. But if
Yep.
you dry them, these are like 100 of tomatoes. This little thing creates like hundreds of tomatoes, of organic tomatoes. These are organic tomato seeds. And this is what we encourage everyone to do. Don't buy trees. We have so many papayas trees growing right now, mame trees growing right now, avocado trees growing right now. Citrus trees, yeah, grapefruit, oranges. We found so many wild oranges and grapefruits in Florida that we saved all the seeds, and now we're planting them, and we have like awesome results. Next time maybe we can bring a little tree into the show and show you what we already have. And I think you don't have to invest a lot of money into building community gardens or food forests. What we also do is our soil. We create our own soil. We get mulch. We get like wood chips and everything from untouched places here in Orlando. There's really spots that hadn't been touched yet, and what we go is we go with a truck and get some soil, and we enrich it with coffee. We enrich it with mulch or wood chips or wood ash, and it's really the wood is lying around. Just collect it, burn it, or chop it and put it into the soil, and you get the best soil ever.
Yeah, I'm kind of jumping far ahead with the whole soil thing, but when it really basically boils down to is when you're creating a food forest, you have to have the fungi, you have to have the mycelium. You know, Paul Stamets, How Mushrooms Can Save the World. That's an excellent book I recommend to a lot of people. It's like a network. It's just like the internet. Mushrooms are like the internet. Fungi.
Exactly.
They're eating. They're sharp. They eat the wood, and they in return.
And I think he froze, and he's going to call me in about 10 seconds. But to eat the wood.
No. Okay.
I'm not editing all this.
Yeah, he's not editing either.
Okay. Before we end the show, I just want to say thank you to everybody. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Jim. It was fun.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Fatine.
Thank you, Camden.
Thanks for everybody coming out there to March Against Monsanto last weekend, supporting the message, supporting the cause. And the best thing you can do right now, when you go to the grocery store, vote with your dollar, okay? Vote with your dollar. And then in return, little by little, start planting those seeds, start planting the garden, showing your kids how to do it, teaching other people how to do it, watching videos, and just constantly educating yourself and keep learning new
hands-on
things.
experiment, so you make sure you do know you can do it.
Exactly.
I'd rather know it now than when I need to know it. And then it's like, oh my god, I just ruined all these seeds because I have no idea what I'm doing. It happens.
Okay.
But yeah, all right, guys. So we're gonna leave it off at that. Guess I got some editing to do because of Camden. Well, we'll talk to you guys later. Camden, don't turn off. And thanks for watching. Next week will be another show Wednesday with other special guests.
Yes, we're excited.
Again, would like to thank Nick for showing up and enlightening us and telling us the little insider scoop of behind the scenes of what was going on. So we really appreciate that. You're welcome on anytime. And we're going to end the show.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.